Welcome to Block Party. I'm your host, Mike Wall. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying this, just subscribe, rate, review on our YouTube channel. Check me out, Mike Wall 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram, Mike Wall 68 on TikTok. Listen, today we're going to break down two guys, a rookie Ickey Ekwonu, and then Andrew Thomas of the New York Giants. I just want to go through our analysis of how we break down based on performance, based on process. We're going to go through our whole grading system and just see how these guys are kind of stacking up. Andrew Thomas has had a resurgence in his career. Everyone's, a lot of people are saying, I think I've seen a couple publications say that he's the top graded guy out there. It'll be interesting to see kind of putting our lens on it, what that really looks like. And then Ickey Ekwonu is a kid at NC State who I'll just tell you right now, he jumps off the screen as far as athleticism. He's fun to watch. He's super aggressive, well coached by James Campen over there in Carolina. So let's start with Ickey Ekwonu. Let's go right to the tape here. And the first thing you got to see about this guy is he just jumps off the screen. And speaking of jumping off the screen, we got number 79 here. I didn't highlight some of these things. So left tackle. Both these guys played left tackle. First thing we want to check out. You see, he shuffles into his you see a lot of guys do this now. Instead of taking kind of more deliberate steps, power steps, they kind of shuffle into their drive blocking. But what you really see is this kid has incredible hands. He almost never loses with his hands, which for a young tackle is very, very rare. And he can roll his hips with the best in the business. So we want to work on his first step. We want to work on his second step. Sometimes they'll keep him high into contact. It's going to have a negative effect when he's going to get somebody who's like who fills a gap really quickly, whether it's like a defensive tackle shooting the gap or whether it's a defensive end 5 technique, 7 technique that is coming off strong on the ball. But for guys that are kind of settling and reading him, the shuffling doesn't have as big of an effect, but it does prevent you from a little bit of initial explosive power. You can see he can roll his hips with the best of them. One of the reasons that a guy comes off, you see that right there, is when you give the defensive end time to load up because you're taking those shuffle steps, right? You're going to work. Now it's kind of good on good, inside hand on inside hand. You don't have the advantage anymore. Again, left tackle over here on the right side of the screen. You see when he comes off the ball, he really has a unique ability to get into this defender. Let me try that again. Just runs off the ball, loads his hips, gets that initial push, and he keeps the pressure on. He's really good at fighting with his hands. He gets into a little bit of wrestling match here, frees up the running back for an outside run on this outside zone play. This is what kind of makes the kid box office. He's already got an excellent set. You see why he's set, regardless if he's in a 2 or a 3 point. He keeps that toe pointed towards the line of scrimmage for 3 kicks. He's got great hands like we talked about. He plays with a natural bend already. He's got that good hip hinge. He's not giving away his numbers. And he can just stone and plays extended as well as anybody out there, especially for a kid his age. It's just very, very unique. Go to the next set here. And this is the only time, and this happens to a lot of young players. This happens to a lot of players around the league because it's just the way they're coached. You don't have to chase this guy. So both the games that I happen to look at, just of no consequence, but the Denver Broncos are missing their 2 top defensive ends. Bradley Chubb's now in Miami, and then Randy Gregory's gone. When we go to the Giants game, they're missing their 2 starting defensive ends as well. So this grading system, the way I look at this, has nothing to do with your opponent, has nothing to do with your scheme. It's just how you go through movement patterns. One thing you do see is right here, when you start to reach, you turn early, your feet get wide, and you give up that corner. There's no reason for a kid who is this talented, who's not going to get bull rushed by this defensive end outside linebacker, to go and attack this player. He's not gaining anything from it. The only thing he does is put himself in a situation where he has to work a little bit harder to make sure that this quarterback gets the ball off before his guy gets around the hoop. No need to do it. Doesn't need it. Quite honestly, he could do that 100 times out of 100 and not lose to that player just using his normal line set. See, you see it again here. He's just got a really, really good set. He naturally sets for the game. He's in a good position now after those 3 kicks. He can settle. He's squared up. this defender really doesn't have an edge one way or another, inside or outside. He's in a perfect position. He's great balanced. He's gotten to this real estate spot under control, and he just plays with arms extended. You see it the whole time here. Just a super impressive guy. He does this it's all over this tape. Quite frankly, his ability to punch and extend on these guys and just have really good sets. This is the area of opportunity, I think, maybe more often than not, but as far as down blocking and getting into the run game. But what you see here is an incredible display of power. When he decides to come off the ball, like he does here, and just runs into this block, he knocks guys off the ball backwards. They're facing the wrong direction. He's just got an incredible power display, hips, and he does a really good job of punching, extending, striking on that second step in this case, extending those hips, extending those arms, and putting this person in a position of he's got complete control over him. He's pushed him 5 yards down the field. Excellent, excellent job. Really, really impressive. Look here again, he's on the right side. This is where it gets a little bit dicey, and we just show a couple of these plays because you have to look at them. When you take those shuffle steps and you're not engaging in that person who's playing a little bit off and they decide to rock one way or the other, you have not closed the gap on them. Therefore, your arms, everything, your timing is off. And so if they do want to swim, it becomes much easier. You're a little bit top heavy here. That's the one thing that you'd say about Ickey is when you watch him as a young player, and I've watched a couple of different tapes of him. We just graded this one, is that he's going to only improve in his ability to not play kind of top heavy, play with his feet underneath him. He's got incredible feet. He's still working on his footwork. He's got incredible feet. He's still working on his footwork. And when you get that footwork down, that technical portion of it, really going to be a tough guy to get anything on, to be honest. We're over here on, I believe this is a deuce block here. And again, when you shuffle and kind of hop into this stuff, I'll show it one more time. You see he just kind of hopping around, shuffling into these blocks, and this is where you get stonewalled. And this happens a lot when you watch this guy's tape right now. When he doesn't run off, we saw what happens when he runs off the ball. When he doesn't run off the ball, this is the kind of stuff. They get stonewalled. These double teams can be defeated. Can't get any leverage on this inside player because all he has to do is step straight forward and initiate contact, and you don't really have power angles, or you don't have feet in the ground to deliver that power into that defender. So looking at Andrew Thomas, and I know that he came out of Georgia. I think it was a first-round pick. Have different couple of coaching staffs, coaches, people, offensive line coaches coach him, different systems they run. And I know he's graded out extremely high over the last season, maybe not even last season, but this season. You hear a lot of things about him, so I was super interested. And the guy's certainly very, very talented. What really stuck out to me in this game, and I've watched a couple games on him. Again, this is the only game that we graded, and this is against the Washington Commanders, who have two great defensive tackles. Sweat, the outside, the defensive end that he would play against, is not in here for most of the game. He's playing against backups here for most of the game. So again, I don't think that matters when I grade it. The outcomes are going to be different, but some of the things that you pick up as far as footwork, as far as how wide he sets, all those different things will manifest against better players. They might not manifest here, but you still, again, it's scheme agnostic, opponent agnostic. What's interesting is that even when he is singled up and is asked to just kind of man pass pro by himself, he does a very nice job, but they don't really ask him to do it very often. This is, of all the offenses and left tackle positions, for a guy that's, being touted at that level, it's not his fault. Let's preface it with that, but he's asked to do less in the context of man passing, drop back by yourself, drive blocking by yourself. I mean, there are a ton of slide protections in here where he's either getting a chip or he's getting slide to him, quick passes, keep passes, a ton of keepers. I have a statistic that shows, basically I won't grade a play if the player is irrelevant. In other words, if I could put a bag in there and nothing would change, I don't grade the play out. And I think in a game of 60 snaps or so, there are 12 of those plays in this game. It doesn't matter who's in at left tackle. They're just going to be able to run the play regardless because there's a keep pass. And then I'm being very, very generous. There's probably, if we're being honest, it's probably closer to 20. And the only reason is what they ask to do here, whether they give him chip help, whether they give him slide protection help on a quick pass. whether they're running those keepers, whether they're running quick screens. It's a very, very user friendly offense, but in some ways, I think when they go up against great players like you saw against Michael Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys, Marcus Lawrence this last week, I think it's a little bit harder for a guy like this because he's not put in that situation to constantly have to test himself in a 1v1 situation, in a drop back situation against top quality defenders. So let's take a look at this. First thing that jumps off the page is he is an athlete. And one thing that the Giants do that is very, very difficult is they're asking him to cut off this 3 technique in situations like the Commanders game when they're running a bear defense. He has to cut three technique off by himself. And on this Saquon Barkley touchdown, he does a phenomenal job, gets his first step, and is just able to press that hole against Jonathan Allen, who's a phenomenal defensive tackle. So that is a very, very tough ask. I think he does an excellent job. You see he's initially very high into contact here, but just like Ickey, he can get back down, roll his hips through, and even if he's high, he does a good job of engaging his hips and pushing the pocket. So something that you like to see. His first step was very good right there. We go to that again, looking on the left side of the screen, number 78, the left tackle. This is where you kind of see that hesitation. Instead of coming off the ball, you have a lot of stutter steps. And again, against this specific player, I don't know that matters. If you're playing against a stud defensive end and you're stuttering and you're in this position and he's coming off the ball hard, you're going to get stoned at the line of scrimmage. So again, we look at process. We don't look at the outcome of this play. We want to improve this process. Having said that, I'd be remiss if I did not point out how he drops his hips right there and just hits on the rise, tries to get his hands inside. He's not quite as good with his hands as Ickey Ekwonu is. Ickey's very, very unique in that way. But Andrew Thomas is very good as well. One thing that stood out on film in this game in particular was his football IQ is extremely high. He reads situations. He reads the defense. He reads stances. He understands the sift rule here, but there's no hesitation. He's probably reading this 3 technique, seeing that he's spiking inside, seeing that this linebacker is almost at his hip, and he's tightened up and just immediately stepping into this. This is just a quick scat offense. So this is a quick strike throw. It's just an excellent job from a football IQ standpoint. He doesn't have to redirect. He's already there. This is the same thing. He takes one kick. Probably reading his 3 techniques. Pretty obvious that he's going inside the way he's standing. Pretty obvious with the defensive end as well. They're running they have this mug look up. So maybe that's something they saw in film, but just his ability to get into this position. You'd love to see him sit down and punch and extend on this so he doesn't have to wrestle and then redirect, but phenomenal job of reading the situation. Football IQ is extremely high. Just like Ickey, you try to get into these situations where you have to down block against good players. And I think with Andrew Thomas, one thing that kind of stood out on film was his feet do get a little wide on that after that second step. You stop moving your feet. You don't necessarily win with your hands right here on this down block, and then it's easy to shed and get his body on the ground. We look at this one more time. You're always kind of aiming for. I think his aiming point, his landmark, everything is great. You'd love to see that inside hand or that outside hand win. And right here, his feet just stop because he gets stoned on that with his hands. This left foot kind of resets, doesn't really put itself in the ground, get those cleats in the ground and use that horsepower, stop momentum, easy to fall on the ground. Very, very few of those. He's very sure-footed. He's a good athlete. Again, another player who I would say has great feet, not great footwork. You see it here. And this is kind of what we talk about with the Giants. They're running an under center play action. It just looks like a complete cluster. Andrew misses completely. Jonathan Allen ends up going the wrong way because of the play action fake, so it doesn't even pop up in the game. But one thing you'd like to see, obviously, in situations like this, and I don't know that this is the easiest block in the world, certainly playing against a 4 technique, but you take this huge step inside, you leave the gap open, obviously, on the outside, and it's tough to redirect. So huge step there. You put yourself in a bad position right here, and you see his arms out, understanding that, I've made a mistake. And instead of just pressing, punching, and then kind of trying to reset back, you get in this situation where you're trying to catch, you feel a little bit loose, which means your feet and your hands are disconnected. Little ET game here. And while you're not probably thrilled with his hands, he likes to flat set. He likes to angle set. Something that I wouldn't advocate. And I could show you some other tapes that would demonstrate why you're playing against like some top pass rushers in the league with this guy. But hands are wide, so you don't want to take this in the chest. You'd like to pass this off, but footwork is very, very good. Does an excellent job of passing the game off all the way down to the guard. Guard fights back, and then he can come off late. Again, just from a footwork standpoint, really good athlete. There's some refinement there, but you like what you see. Again, not thrilled as we're looking at the left tackle here on the right side of your screen again, guys. You're not thrilled with that big second kick slide that ends up with your heels clicking, but you love the way that he's aggressive and punches. Of course, they're running slide pro to his side. There was a tight end on the release. So he's got help. He's in a good situation, but he does a great job of punching and extending here. These are the ones, I think this happened last week versus Dallas. But you see this guy's a little bit tighter. We're running slide pro again. Guard stepping down, but he really is going to help you in this B gap. But you jump out, you put yourself in a disadvantageous position. So if this was not a slide pro, and I don't know how they're teaching this, but if this was not, regardless of it, you never want to be in a position where you feel like you're falling back in to try to recover. You should never have to recover like that. You're just looking to take, I always take that, 2 quick sets are better than 1 large one. It's the easiest way to think about it. Again, based on process, not outcome. I think the big thing is like situations like this when the game is on the line and he had to man pass protect. He did an excellent job of especially bending and getting in with that inside hand. So you look at Ickey and Andrew Thomas here. Again, the way I grade this is based on movement patterns, process-based measurements of accuracy and precision, not and precision, not outcome. Okay, I want to really stress that, right? This is scheme agnostic. This is opponent agnostic. This is what these players can do to dramatically improve their on-field performance. Okay, it's a negative grading system, which means that I assume you're doing everything right. And if you do something wrong, whether it's your first step, second step, bend, etc., we grade that down. Of the elite level is green, 90% and above, 80 to 90% is yellow, and then red is obviously anything below 70%. So you look at Ickey Ekwonu. In the run game in particular, he false steps a lot, doesn't pick up that plant foot or that initial foot. So you see his first and second step, and consequently that pad level is oftentimes higher than you'd like it to be, even though he does such a good job of rolling his hips. He could deliver more power with more accuracy and precision if he continues to improve that first and second step. And because of that, and again, it's a small sample size, but you saw on some of those double teams, when guys decide to shoot the gap, you are going to get some stalemates in the run game. He's not loose. He's very under control. Doesn't play with a wide base. Has pretty good hands, elite level hands and run ad pass. To be honest with you, he's on the borderline of elite being there with his hand placement. And then landmarks, we're talking hat placement more often than not, and he's pretty high level there as well. Pass protection. Small sample size from this one game, but he does a lot of drop back passing on his own. He's asked to do a pretty, some pretty heavy lifting considering his being a rookie at that position. So it's a pretty good, I think, indicator. That second step usually means that you're either kicking over too far, it means you're going to turn your hips a little bit quicker than you want to, or you're just heel clicking. Regardless, that usually means you're getting wide too fast, or you're going to turn your hips too early. Both of these guys are such phenomenal athletes that against second team or against non-elite level NFL opposition, I think they can get away with both of them. Both of them can get away with that. You look at Andrew Thomas, and really that second step and the run game is the one that generates the most power. You're trying to strike on that second step. If you're playing against a 3 technique, 4 technique, 4-eye, or 5 technique, anything wider than that, you'll probably be hitting later on. But, that's probably his largest area of opportunity. And then you see his hands aren't necessarily where they want them to be. You saw a lot of times he's placed his hands outside his cylinder. He's not in there winning on the inside numbers. So those are just 2 quick things. And really the way I look at this is his root cause issue is really if you improve that second step, stepping forward into your power, you're going to be able to marry that second step up with your hands more often than not. You're going to see a dramatic increase in both those by just focusing on the one. Pass protection, elite level first step, good on the second. I don't know why that went yellow. That 90% should be elite level on that pad level as well. So he is a very, very, very good player. I mean, these are really high scores, especially in pass protection. The problem is if you were going to put a caveat on it, and I think I have it here. Ickey, he's got a ton of inside zones. And this is Andrew Thomas. And what you'll see here is Pro is the only one that's in double digits. Quick passes are high. There's only a handful of man pass. I think that's 5 in the entire game. So there's 5 situations where he has to drop back on his own. And so again, that's not a reflection, or maybe it is a reflection on him to this coaching staff, but that's not a reflection on him from our grading system. It's just you want to have context with everything. So when you're grading super high, obviously a higher sample size would count for more because hopefully you'd see more man passes, you'd see a broader stretch of that. But I like to give you the initial kind of, we'll call this 30,000 foot view here of these numbers, right? But really if you're a coach, if you're a player, you want to break it down. You want to start looking at all the different types of plays, requirements, play action pass, pulls, B blocks, A blocks, etc. All these different things under center play action pass, shotgun play action pass. What am I really good at? What are we seeing the most often? Where are my deficiencies, and then how can I work to improve those? That's the name of the game. These guys have bright futures. I particularly, I just came away super impressed with Ickey Ekwonu because of his hands. He plays extremely fast. He's powerful, and he plays with a chip on his shoulder. Neither of these guys finish to the ground a lot. Ickey had, I think, 3 in the game. Andrew Thomas might have had 1. But if you're watching these as a player, what you can do is you can go in and say, look, I know what my areas of opportunity are. I can hyper focus, and it's these specific situations, whether it's my first step in pass protection, my first step on the backside of like a B block or a deuce block, whether it's my outside zone. Like I know exactly where, if I get that much better, it's going to pay dividends across the whole spectrum of what I do as an offensive lineman and football player. So hope that was helpful. That was fun for the fans out there. Again, if you like this, subscribe, rate, review on our YouTube channel, /Process to Perform. Hit me up, Michael, Twitter 68 with any questions or comments, and we'll check you next time. Thanks.